Well, I see they're not playing reruns of the Super Bowl on ESPN tonight. Boy, are we in God's house or what? And it's a humbling experience to be able to tell you a little bit what Charlie Yao used to be like, what happened to him, and what Charlie Yao's like today. There's probably some professional people here, and I'll tell you straight up, I have no degree in alcoholism. So I cannot tell you what it was like or what happened or what it's like today. From experience, I do believe that our book talks about alcohol, so it must be alcohol. So evidently alcohol has been doing what it's been doing ever since man started crushing grapes. So it don't change. I don't know about y'all. We're not a Glumlock group, but in Savannah, Georgia, we buy white chips by the pound. So it's still doing what it's always done. But I will tell you a little bit about Charlie Yao, and that's basically what I'm supposed to do, and how much I do love the fellowship and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I got to meet Miss Karen, and she's not the only one. I'm going to go ahead and tell on myself before it gets rumored milled around here. Everybody asks you when you get up here, you the speaker? No. Yeah. Are you nervous? Yeah. And I guess my ego got a hold of me a little bit. Miss Karen said, Charlie, are you nervous? I said, no, this doesn't bother me at all. Not a bit. She said, really? I said, yeah, this doesn't bother me. She said, well, then why are you in the ladies' restroom? Sometimes you just don't get better, you know. But Larry Boy and I have been on this journey. He's been on it longer than I have, but he talks my language. And I truly believe there is no fluff in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. There are no filler sentences, no filler words. If it's in there, it means something. And the more I study that book, the more I learn exactly what the authors were talking about, what Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob and Hank Parkhurst and Henry Fitzmayo and all those guys that had a part in publishing a document that was going to save lives from here to eternity. And as long as we don't mess it up, it's going to continue to do the same thing every day, every night. Because I may not be able to relate to some people in here, because I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm talking to the Charlies that's sitting out there that can't quit drinking. Because that's what's wrong with me. I just can't quit drinking. Doesn't mean I don't want to. It just means I can't. And I'm going to take you on a little journey. It won't take too long. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. And it was December 3rd, 1993, and I'm crawling around on my hands and knees in a 7x9 jail cell. And I realized, finally, Charlie, you can't quit drinking. That's exactly what's wrong with you. You can't quit. It's not that I was thinking about that, because it's not the first time I'd been in a place like that, but it's just like it was a revelation. It just came, and I knew you can't quit. Because I don't know if it ever happened to anybody else in here, but people used to start putting conditions on my drinking. And I couldn't understand. They would they would say things like, Charlie, you're a gifted craftsman. Man, you're meticulous in everything you do. But it's 7 o'clock in the morning, Charlie, and you reek of alcohol. You can't come to work drinking like that. Man, you get hurt on this job, they'll lock us down. And I was a union iron worker, and I was a structural welder. I was certified in 12 states. I can weld anything but the crack of dawn and a broken heart, baby. I know something about welding. And I get these great jobs, man, great jobs. And they'd say, but Charlie, you can't come to work drinking like that. You just can't come. And I've been doing public work since I was 15 years old, and I can honestly stand here in front of God's and His house and honestly tell you I've never been fired from a job. But I sure have been laid off while they were hiring. I mean, there was guys that fed their families just following me around because I'd get all these good jobs. And I'd be walking out the gate, and I said, well, they're having a layoff. And they said, well, no, they're hiring welders. No. Then another one that kind of gets your attention. Charlie, you're a friend of mine, and I consider you a friend of mine, a good friend. And we're having a little get-together this weekend, but Charlie, don't come back to my house drinking anymore. Don't come, man. Your jokes aren't funny anymore, Charlie. And your intimidation doesn't intimidate anyone anymore, Charlie. You peed in my azalea bush the last time, dude. I don't want you looking cross-eyed at my wife anymore. I don't even want you playing my dog, Charlie. Don't come to my house drinking anymore. Just don't come. Then the one that'll get your attention. Charlie, please, please, just don't come home drinking anymore. Please. I married you. I made my bed. I guess I got to lay in it. But Charlie, I can't answer that 6-year-old boy's questions anymore. Mama, how come my daddy don't love me? How come my daddy won't play with me, Mama? Joey's daddy plays with him. How come you and Daddy fuss all the time, Mama? How come Daddy has to work all the time? I got to go to bed before he gets up, before he gets home, and he's gone by the time I get up. How come is it, Mama, when he sees me, he says, this weekend, partner, is just you and me. Just you and me, partner. Whatever you want to do, it's just you and me. But it's Saturday morning, and he's gone. Or he didn't even come home. I can't answer those questions anymore, Charlie. Please, just don't come home drinking anymore. Please. Well, I got a little walking around sense. And I saw the handwriting on the wall, and I said, okay, I quit. And I quit. About 2 months later, I quit again. About a month after that, I quit for good. About 2 weeks after that, I quit. So help me God, I quit. And it's December 3rd, 1993, and I realize I can't quit. So if there's a Charlie out there that thinks he's powerless over alcohol, in other words, you can't quit, that you've lost the power of choice in drink, and that will never be returned to you, welcome home. We've been waiting for you. But I don't know, in December around Chatham County there, I guess they get ready for the Christmas crowd, I don't know. But at that particular time, I had an in-law, a brother-in-law, and he was a jam-up lawyer. And it just so happened I had a bucket full of money. So he took my bucket, and we got ourselves arraigned, and they cut me loose. Now, I ain't free, but I'm loose. And there's a big difference between being free and being loose. And I go to my house, and house is the appropriate word. Listen, trust me, because I drank the home away. And I went in this bedroom, and I locked the door, and I ain't coming out, and ain't nobody else coming in. And I do things that some of us might have contemplated. It don't make for good telling in mixed company. You probably wouldn't believe it anyway, but I'll put it like this. Procter & Gamble has yet to invent a mouthwash or toothpaste that'll take the taste of Browning gun oil out of your mouth. Now, that's been over 14 years ago. and I can taste it right now. And I hope I never, ever lose the taste of that. So if you're starting this journey and all of a sudden you remember the taste of it, it's time for some action. But I walk out the next morning, my wife's in the kitchen. She's standing at the little kitchen bar there. And she said, I didn't expect to see you. I said, well, I didn't expect to be here, to tell you the truth. But something's got to happen. I know what kind of trouble it'll end. I know I've promised you 1,000,000 times. But I got to go get a drink. I am falling apart. I have got to have a drink. And that didn't seem to bother her much. Now, I'm serious as a heart attack, man, and she just kind of taking it with a grain of salt. And she reached under the counter and she set this book up on the counter. And I looked at it and I said, what's that? She said, that's a book, Charlie. I know it's a book, but it says Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, I've never seen that. She says, I know, I've had it a couple of years. I said, well, I've never seen it. She said, I know, Charlie, I kept it in the bill drawer. Well, I didn't even know we had one of those, to tell you the truth. But I opened it up, and it had this little inscription on the jacket of it. And it said, the words in this book will bring you peace. The words in this book will save his life. When he's ready, I'll be there. May God bless you and keep you to then. David Schaffner, April 1991. Now, I don't know David Schaffner. I don't know Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know a whole lot about God blessing people, to tell you the truth. I just know something's got to be done. And she said, Charlie, I've asked you over and over, but I'm going to ask you one more time. If you can just hang on for a couple hours, we're going to go see somebody. I said, go see. She said, I've called. If you'll just hang on, please. Just a couple more hours, that's all. Well, somehow we tough it out. Sit in front of this big building, go inside, sit in this little room, in walks this guy with a clipboard. Sets himself down, introduces himself, and says, I'm the assessor. I said, the assessor? He said, yeah, I'm here to assess you. Well, I don't really know what my net worth is. I figure it's kind of like giving a dying man an enema. It can't hurt, so I just get right on with the assessing here. And he says, Mr. Yao, do you come from a broken home? I said, yes, sir. He said, tell me about that. Nah, just do not talk about that. He said, no, well, just when did your dad leave? I said, my dad didn't leave, my mama did. He said, well, tell me about it. I said, I don't want to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that. So he made him a little note. He says, I see with your particular age group, you got any military background? Yes, sir. What branch of service you in? United States Marine Corps. What years? 1966, 1972. Oh. Did you see any combat? Yes, sir. Tell me about that. I don't want to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that. You don't talk about that. He said, no, we're not getting anywhere. You need, I said, I'm not talking about it with you, mister. I don't even know you. I'm not talking about it. So he makes another little note. He said, well, tell me about your family life. I said, well, I guess we got our ups and downs. A bug flew in her mouth or something, man. She got the gagging and a coughing. He went and got her a drink of water. He didn't ask me to talk about that. He just made another little note. He said, Mr. Yao, do you drink? I said, yes, sir. He He said, how much you drink? Well, I'll drink a six-pack now and then. He said, now that sounds like a lie. I said, it is a lie. That's a bald-faced lie, mister. Mister, I drink all I can hold all the time. There's got to be one condition and one condition only in my drinking. I got to be at least semi-conscious. Other than that, I drink all I can hold all the time. Well, he compiled his notes and looked over at my wife and said, well, I think we'll just keep him. She says, good. She gave me a little peck on the cheek, and I just buzzed her right on out the door. They don't buzz me out the door. And he took you in this room, man. They stripped you everything but your Fruit of the Looms. And they give you this dress to put on. I mean, you tie it in the back or tie it in the front. It don't make no difference. You're going to be embarrassed. I guarantee you. And then they give you these unifoot slippers. They ain't got no bend in them. You can wear them on your right foot or left foot. Don't make no difference. Unifoot slippers, see? And I don't know what it is about these places, but man, you can hang meat in there. And they said, you all right? I said, well, I'm kind of cold. And they gave me this fishnet looking thing. It's kind of like something your grandmother crocheted. You know, it just 12-count shrimp go right through them holes. And I'm standing here in this dress and these unifoot slippers and this fishnet wrapped around me. And I'm thinking, now that ain't what I had envisioned. And I'm a great visionary. I come from a long line of visionaries. I mean, I can have these 3-hour, two-sided conversations, and I'm the only one in the truck. My Uncle Buck was a great visionary. Uncle Buck was a logger in Tennessee, and he'd get in that Tennessee spring water, and Buck always drug his 6-foot log chain with him everywhere he went. And people would say, Buck, what are you dragging that log chain around for? Uncle Buck would go, you can't push a log chain. But see, it's not what I had envisioned. But it was like I'd put myself there because I drank at the most inopportune times. I mean, I'd drink operating a motor vehicle and work and church and funerals. And I drank when it was absolutely not necessary to drink. I had a guy ask me one time, said, "Dadgum, Charlie, you drunk again?" I said, "No, still." And the worst thing was, see, I drank when I didn't want to drink. I drank when I didn't want to drink. So here I am. Well, they took me in this room, had a little bed in it, a little washstand, restroom, that's about all it was. All of a sudden the door opens, then walks Rosie Greer. I mean, this dude's about 6'5", about 350 pounds, and he's got a straight back chair in one hand and a copy of Sports Illustrated in the other hand. He sets this straight back chair down in the corner and sits down, says, "How are you?" I said, "Well, I'm all right, I reckon." He said, "I'm the Observer." The Observer? He said, "Yeah, I'm here to observe you." I said, "You gonna sit there all night?" He said, "I sure am." "Aren't you gonna get in that bed?" I said, "I sure ain't." So all night long, Rosie reads Sports Illustrated, and I observe Rosie. But, you know, they come by and they feed you in these styrofoam plates and plastic spoons and pop you one of them silver bullets every now and then. After about 3 or 4 days, they send you upstairs for a medical examination. And I'm sitting on this cold table, my dress, my unifoot slippers, my fishnet, and walks the doctor. Now, he's an Indian doctor. I ain't talking about Apache or Cherokee. He's an Indian doctor. And that's okay, except with his broken English, he's trying to tell me what he's getting ready to do, and with my broken English, I'm trying to understand the procedure. And he washes his hands real good, and he reaches over and puts on one of them one-fingered latex gloves and grabs a jar of petroleum jelly and turns around and grins. I said, now, Doc, I don't know what's wrong with me, but where you getting ready to look, it ain't there. I don't think we need to do that. He said, but it's part of the procedure. I said, well, it ain't part of this procedure. No, that dog ain't going to hunt. He said, well, you'll just need to go get observed some more. I said, fine. You can go assess me some more, but we ain't going here. Well, you know, it's all this just was in my mind. That's all. That's kind of what happened, but it was just, but I made great progress, and all of a sudden I'm out in the general population. They got me out in this big day room. And I'm walking around in my dress, my unifoot slippers, my fishnet, trying to find myself. And they say, well, today you go to group. I said, group? Yeah, today you go to group. Now, they don't give you a manual when you walk in these places, and I don't know what group is. But I'm in this room with all these people. All of a sudden, this guy walks in, sits at the head of the table, don't know what he is. But he's the counselor. Counselor? Wonder what a counselor does. Well, a counselor deals in issues. Issues? Man, I'm sitting here in a dress. I ain't got no issues. But he's going around the room. This one guy been in there about 3 different times because he keeps failing his drug test at work. He thinks they're just picking on him. That counselor says, that's a real issue right there. We'll work on that. This other little lady got to get her meds adjusted because the pool man don't show up on time. And the clock on that Volvo won't stay right. Well, that's a real issue. We'll deal with that. He got to me, and I still ain't come up with a good one. He said, well, why are you here? I said, well, I can't quit drinking. And it was just like that. It was just a hush came over the room. And I guess you learn it in counselor school because I heard Tom Brady say it once, and I guess that's what you do because this counselor said it too. He said, oh, no. Now, it is true you have a biochemical genetic disorder affecting the hypothalamic information control center of your brain. It seems when you ingest ethyl hydroxide, it forms acetaldehydes, combines with dopamine, producing tetrahydroisoquinone, and you lose control. I said, no, sir, I can't quit drinking. Well, I ain't even ready for group. I'm back out here in the day room. And I looked, and they got this little bar over here in the corner, and all the guys in the dresses and the unifoot slippers and the fishnets were lined up against the wall. So I ain't the sharpest pin in the cushion, but I figured that's where I ought to go. So I'm right over there in line. I get to the window, and a little nurse sets this Easter basket up there, and she said, looks at my chart and says, well, I see you've been assessed. And I said, yes, ma'am. See you've been observed. And I said, yes, ma'am, more than once. She said, I see you refuse medical treatment. Well, we won't have to go there, do we? She said, okay, you can have 2 of these, 2 of these, and 1 of these. So I took 2 of them, 2 of them, 1 of them, gave me a little shot of orange juice, washed it down with it. And I said, well, what do I do now? She said, you go to group. I said, they just kicked me out of group. She said, oh, honey, they won't kick you out now. So I'm back in group. Now, it seemed like an eternity. Couldn't have been too long, but I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, somebody found a thermostat in that place. And the temperature started rising. Off come the fishnet. I got this dress hiked up. And I get this next revelation. My daggum feet don't work. And I'm thinking, maybe I got my unifoot slippers on wrong. And I can get down to get them off, and I can't get up. In walks the counselor. You want issues? I got one now, Bubba. My daggum feet don't work. He didn't think I was an issue. Well, they was working when I come in here. They ain't now. Well, we do this a while. Then I'm standing in front of the counter one day, and the little lady says, you can't have none of them, and one of them. So I got none of them, and one of them. Went to group. Counselor wants to talk about issues. May have one. Yeah, what's that? You know, if I get me a pint of that wild turkey, I wouldn't need them 4 pills you just took away from me. Because that's the only thing that has removed the obsession for me to drink. The only thing. Those places and the people that work there are angels of mercy. And they help so many people. Perhaps I wasn't ready. I don't know. But it's like nobody would hear me. I can't quit drinking. Can't you just talk to me about that? I don't want to talk about my mama. I don't want to talk about that war. I can't quit drinking. Can somebody just talk to me about that? That's what was in my mind. But all of a sudden, I'm in the big doctor's office. And he says, we can't help you. You won't get honest. You won't deal with why you're like you are. Besides that, your insurance has run out. But we can't help you. I don't know. I said, what do you want to hear, man? What is it you got to hear? You want to know what a 20-month-old boy thinks about what in the world could I have done to make my mama leave? What in the world can a 20-month-old kid do to make your mama walk out and never come home? And every time your daddy'd get in that jug, he'd say, Charlie boy, don't you ever give your heart to a woman. Don't you ever give your heart to a woman. Because they'll just rip it out and they'll leave you flopping like a fish out of water. You understand? And I'd say, yes, sir, I understand. But I didn't understand. Because my mother sent me birthday cards and Christmas cards every year, and they all said, Charlie, I love you. I'm your mother. And don't you ever doubt I don't love you. That's what I wanted to believe. And I'm 15 years old, and I'm backed into the last corner. And I'm just like every other animal. I ain't going to get beat no more. And I'm tired of hating. And I'm just like that animal. You'll either fight or you'll run away. And I couldn't fight him. So he went to work one day and I ran away. And I'm on this 300-mile trip on this Greyhound bus, and I'm thinking, you just wait. Today I prove you wrong, Hoss. Today I prove you wrong. I'm going to pull up in front of that mansion with that manicured grass, and I'm going to walk up those cobblestones and step up on that farmer's porch and ring that doorbell, and she's going to come to the door holding a platter of homemade cookies, and everything's going to be all right. I'm proving you wrong today, Hoss. And the cab driver says, this is it, son. And I get out and I walk through that knee-high grass. And I step up on those brick old blocks and I hit that aluminum storm door. It's got the bottom screen about halfway kicked out. And I step back off and she comes to the door. But she's not holding a platter of homemade cookies. She's holding something, but it ain't a platter of homemade cookies. And somebody in the back's hollering, "Who is it? Get him out of here." And the first words out of her mouth is, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I want to come live with you, Mother. I don't want to live with him no more. I don't want to get beat no more. I don't want to hate no more. I just want to come live with you." She stepped off those brick old blocks. She said, "Charlie, I'm your mother. I love you, and I'll always love you. But you can't stay here. You just can't stay here." And I'm walking off. She says, "Where are you going?" But I ain't looking back. The only thing's in my mind is that SOB was right. I was going to prove him wrong today, but he's right. If there's another Charlie in here and you're getting ready to start this journey, listen to a fool that's just told on himself how sick I was. I carried it for decades. But through these steps, I have found out how sick I was. That I demanded that my mother love me the way I wanted her to love me, instead of giving her the privilege to love me. You'll find that out in these steps. And if there's somebody in your past that rings a bell with, I promise you, these steps will fix that. Because 2 years ago, I went and buried my mother. And when I was looking in that casket, I knew I had a mother that loved me, period. And she went to her reward knowing that she had a son that loved her, period. No conditions, no restrictions. That's what these steps will give to the alcoholic of my type. You want to hear about that war? You want to know the decibel sound of a 3-year-old baby screaming because you just shot her mama? Because her mama just handed the guy you shared a toothbrush with 2 hours before a bag of something, and he's hollering, "Find my arms, Charlie. Don't you let them take me out of here without my arms." And I said, "I'll find them. I'll find them." And somebody else is handing somebody else a basket. And everybody's dying. Even the baby's dead. And they send you back to the world, and they stand you on a stage, and they pin a medal on your chest, and they call you a hero. Then you walk outside the building, and they spit on you, and they call you a baby killer. I ain't no hero. I'm 19 years old. And I've just seen more death in the last 3 lifetimes. And I ain't no baby killer either. I just can't find his arms. Is this therapeutic? Is this what you had to hear? Doctor, all you've done is sentence me to another of your nightmares. That's all. Well, I'm wiping the snot out of my nose, and he go clean his drawers, and he comes back and he breaks out this prescription pad, and he said, "Man, you could be a picket fence. And you need extensive aftercare. And this is the highest dosage I can prescribe. And you're going to be on it the rest of your life." I said, "Oh, okay." He said, "No, yeah, your wife said she wasn't coming after you, Charlie. Your keys are at the front. And oh, yeah, God bless you, Charlie." I said, "God bless you, doctor. God bless you." The greatest thing that happened to me in that month's stay at that facility is they took me to my first AA meeting. Now, by then I was in civilian clothes, but I had this big orange armband on and no shoelaces. And they said, "You can go, it's voluntary, but if you want to go, you can go and you can smoke." And I said, "Shoot, I'm in." So they loaded us up on a little short bus, and they took us over here in this auditorium, stuck us way up in the nosebleed section. And I'm waiting for the smoking lamp to be lit. this preacher gets up there and says a prayer I ain't never even heard of. And they talk about stuff I couldn't even comprehend what he was saying. Then they stopped and they started fellowshipping. We sitting there huffing and puffing, and I looked down and walking up these stairs, a long, tall drink of water, and he walked right straight to me. Stuck out his hand and said, "My name's David. It's good to see you." I said, "Hello, yeah." He said, "I know you." I said, "I don't think I know you." He said, "That's all right. I've been where you been." I said, "Oh, you out on bail too?" "No, I ain't out on bail, but we'll talk." Now, there was probably 300 people in that auditorium, and he is the only one that walked up those stairs and stuck out his hand to all the guys with the big orange armbands on and no shoestrings. The only one. That's why it is so important. If you come to my home group, the Savannah group that meets Mondays and Thursday nights at 1501 Eisenhower in Savannah, Georgia, you're going to see this old Georgia redneck standing right beside a Bun coffee maker. And he's going to stick out his hand and say, "It's really good to see you." And I'll mean it. I promise you, I'll mean it. And I don't know if you got 40 years sobriety or you just got your big orange armband cut off. It does not matter. It will be good to see you. So I leave this place. And it's the last time up to this point I have contemplated where I wanted to go or which way I should go. Because if I took a right out of that parking lot and went a couple of blocks, I'll be right in front of a liquor store. And that guy knew me up one side and down the other. He saw me coming. He had it packaged. He gave me credit because I was such a good customer. He let me write hot checks because I was such a good customer. He even let me forge my wife's signature on credit cards. Or if I turned left and went another block or two, I could go over there where they're having those A&A meetings. I don't know why, I just turned left. Just turned left. And I walked in that door, and there was an old man sitting over in the corner, and he looked right into the bowels of my soul. And he said, "What's your problem?" I said, "I can't quit drinking." And his old face just lit up. He thought he won the lottery or something. He said, "I can't quit either, son. That's why I'm here. Welcome home." Now, I sit in a lot of meetings, and I hear a lot of people's stories. And a lot of us, some of us are court ordered and all kinds of situations while we're here. And I hear over and over, the last place I wanted to be was in Alcoholics Anonymous. You dadgum cult and a bunch of Jesus freaks and just waiting for somebody to bite a chicken's head off. Lord, I didn't want to be in Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, that's your story, and I believe every word of it. This is my story. It took those 5 seconds of lapsed time in history and that one sentence from a total stranger to know I was home. I knew I was home, and I haven't looked back. And he took me in this room. We sat down. Some guy got up and he said a prayer I didn't know, read some stuff I didn't understand. Then they circled the wagons. And they got to talking, and guess what they talked about? Drinking. Not so much the physical act of drinking, but the solution you can find when you can't quit drinking. They didn't ask me about my mama. They didn't ask me about no war. They didn't ask me if my insurance was paid up. They didn't check to see if I had a valid driver's license. They talked about drinking. and the solution you can find when you are powerless over alcohol. And I sat right beside a guy that had done 18 months on death row for killing a man in the blackout. And I was home. And there was a lady sitting on the other side of me, was too pretty to be an alcoholic. She talked about giving her kids up and turning to prostitution to support her habit. And I was home. And I am one of the luckiest people that's ever come through the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because not one of them, not the first one, insulted my intelligence. Because I hear it. Maybe it doesn't happen in Atlanta, Georgia, but it happens in Savannah, and I'm ashamed that it does. I hear people with supposedly decades of sobriety sit there and tell a Charlie Yao, well, you just don't drink and you won't get drunk. Really? Yeah, you just don't drink. Really? Yeah. It don't matter if your hind end falls off. Just throw her in a wheelbarrow and bring her right on up here. Just don't you drink. Really? I tell you, the first time I heard it, I was 16 years old, and I was looking through a 2-inch piece of plexiglass, and my grandmother was on the other side. And she said, Charlie, if you wasn't drinking that stuff and doing that stuff, you wouldn't be in here. I said, yes, ma'am, I know. Charlie, if you wasn't drinking that stuff and doing that stuff and messing around them yahoos, I wouldn't be spending my retirement trying to keep you out of the penitentiary. And I said, yes, ma'am, I know. You see, we Charlies know. We know. To tell us that, just hand us a quart of Jim Beam and a loaded 45. Please. Don't let us waste your time. Because if that's the only solution you got, then I made the wrong turn, Hoss. That's it in a nutshell. I just made the wrong turn. And I've been critiqued about that stand I take, but I take no backwater for it. There are Charlies in here that is dying because we try to convince them you're going to have to do this numerous times before you hear the pop. After that meeting, I held hands with a total stranger, and I said the Lord's Prayer, and I couldn't remember about half the words. But after that, they asked me if I wanted to join Alcoholics Anonymous, and I said I did. And there was a black lady that stood up and gave me a white chip. A black lady. And she handed it to me, and she hugged all the prejudice out of me. She hugged me like color did not matter. She hugged me like nothing mattered. Except she had a new brother in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she hugged me from the waist up. That's what happened to me. And after that meeting, I asked Mr. Bob what I'm supposed to do, and he said, 5:30, we want to talk about it again, you be here. 5:30, I was back. We talked about it. I said, what do I do now, Mr. Bob? He said, 8:30, we're going to talk about it again, you be here. I'm going home. 8:30, I was there, and guess what? There was that long, tall drink of water sitting on the front row that he came up and shook my hand. Now, I got 3 AA meetings under my belt. And I got $38,000 of therapy. I am full of therapy because I had a good therapist. So I swandered on up there to the front row and I said, David, I need me a temporary sponsor. Son, it looked like I slapped him in the face with a dirty mop. He said, let me tell you something, Hammer, I don't do temporary. Did you come in here for relief, or did you come in here for recovery? Now, I didn't know the difference in the words, but I knew the right word to say. And I said, I came in here for recovery. And he handed me a pamphlet on questions and answers on sponsorship. Said, be at my house Saturday night. Saturday night I was there. We went upstairs. He basically told me his story. We might have listened to a tape. I can't remember. We got the book of Alcoholics Anonymous out, and I took step 1, step 2, and step 3 that night. And I am on fire, baby. I am on fire. I said, what do you want me to do now, David? Give me an assignment, David. What you want me to do now? And he gave me the greatest assignment I've ever had in my life. He put his hand on my shoulder and he said, Charlie boy, start being nice to people. It ain't never too early to start being nice. Now see, I didn't know the implications of that. What he was basically telling me to do was, you're going to have to take the 12 steps of recovery. Because it's those 12 spiritual principles that I have to have working in my life for me to be nice to you. You know, there are 2 memberships in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's one, you can just walk in and say, I got a desire to stop drinking. And guess what? You're a member. That's all. But there's another one that's got a little more tougher requirements. And it says that I've got to abandon myself to my God as I understand my God. I got to admit my faults to him and to my fellows. And I got to clear away the wreckage of my past and give freely of what I find. Then and only then can I join the fellowship of the Spirit of Alcoholics Anonymous. I can come in here and say, I got a desire to stop drinking, and I'm a member. And why not? The women are beautiful, the coffee's free, I ain't got to do nothing. Or do you want to belong to the fellowship of the Spirit, Charlie? You don't have to take these steps. And you got to start being nice. And to do that, you got to get honest, Hammer. And I ain't talking about lying, cheating, and stealing. That's minor. The depth of deception is when you are not you. And that's what rigorous honesty is, being you. No sham, no scam, no pretense. Just be you. And you got to have some hope, Charlie. And hope is nothing more than what if. You see, my biggest fear when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous was, what if this don't work? What am I going to do if this don't work? And I told Mr. Bob the first day, I said, I might be drunk before the sun comes up. He said, yeah, you might be, Charlie. You might be. But what if you're not? What would you have done different? Well, came to one of these AA meetings, and I prayed. I think I prayed. I listened to you pray. He said, that's what I do. That's what I do. But hope gets a track record. Then all of a sudden, it's not what if this will work. It's faith that I know it works. It's working. It works. It really works. And I give my most precious possession away in step 3. There is no greater honor I can give to my God than myself. And that's exactly what I did in step 3. I gave myself to my God. And I had the faith that He'd take it. And you got to find some courage, Charlie. You got to find some courage. Because I know you're a scared little boy. I've always been a scared little boy. But I couldn't tell you I'm scared. So I masqueraded it with violence and hostilities. I became a tough guy. You can spot us tough guys. We're always standing on the street corner talking about how tough we are. We have to. Because if we don't, you realize we're just scared little boys and don't know what to do. God ain't going to remove the fear, Charlie. He's going to give you enough courage to go through it because you're scared to death. And when you do that, you'll see there's integrity involved in this. But you have got to be willing, my friend. And you better humble yourself. You've got to humble yourself, Charlie. You're not a victim anymore, my friend. Sorry. Nobody has the power anymore, Charlie. You haven't lost a thing. You have donated it for the next drink. And you got to find out there's some brotherly love. You got to be nice to people in front of that Bun Coffee maker, whether you want to or not, Charlie. Because they don't know you. They don't know what kind of scumbag you are in your mind. So you basically tell them it's good to see you, and they see another smiling face, and that makes them feel better. But you got to have some discipline about this. You got to have some discipline, Charlie. And you got to persevere. You got to do it every day, Bubba. There's no clemency in this. And you got to be aware that these treasures are a gift that come to you every day, Charlie. When all this comes together, you're going to want to find a Charlie that can't quit drinking. And you're going to want to say, welcome home, partner. I can't quit either. That's why I'm here. It's these 12 spiritual principles that has to work in my life so I can be nice to you. And when I'm nice to you, I'm nice to my God. And when I'm nice to you, I reconnect with you. And when I reconnect with you, I reconnect with my God. I have been disconnected from something I should have never been disconnected from. And through these steps, every once in a while, I'll get up off my knees at night and I'll wonder if I've been kind, polite, and courteous to everybody I saw today. Have I even tried? Sometimes I'd say, yeah, I have. And I know I'm connected. I learned one of the greatest lessons I've learned in my life from a 6-year-old the other day. Was walking through a parking lot at Food Line. And she reached down and she turned this penny. It was on tails, and she turned it over to heads and kept walking. I said, what are you doing, Master? She said, well, if it's heads, you pick it up because it says in God we trust. But if it's tails, you turn it over so the next person can come by and pick it up. Maybe that's why the greatest of all spiritual teachers says if you want to be filled, become like a little child again. That's what happened to me in this walk. And it's December 2002, and I get this phone call. And they say it's happened. I said, they said, yeah, Scotty Boy's flipped a Jeep Cherokee 8 times, and he's dead. Oh, Scotty Boy. You ought to like Scotty Boy. Scotty Boy could light up a room Scotty Boy is my best drinking partner. Scotty Boy was my best friend. Scotty Boy is my oldest son. When he was 16 years old, he'd rather ride around his daddy's pickup truck and drink whiskey than go to football practice, because his daddy was so hip, slick, and cool. I did my first 4-step with Scotty. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing, and I know you don't know what I'm doing, but I can't live in this maximum security prison of terror another day. I cannot breathe this stale, musty air of bewilderment another breath. And I can't sleep on this stone-cold, hard bed of frustration another night. And I cannot exist on these crumbs of despair anymore. And I don't know if there's a pardon in this. I just know I got to do it. And I told him every despicable thing his daddy had ever done. And I did not list assets. I don't think my God needs to remove what few assets I've got. I don't think that's blocking me from the sunlight of the Spirit. I think his defects of character is what's eating my lunch. And that's what I asked to get rid of a day at a time. But I don't know what to do, so I called David. David Schaffner is my sponsor. I've had one home group, one white chip, and one sponsor since January 11th, 1994. And I called David and I said, Scotty's dead and I don't know what to do, David. In 15 minutes, he's at my house. And his wife, Lucille, who is my service sponsor, walks in behind him. And Lucille holds my wife and lets her cry like a baby for 3 hours because I can't touch her. And I said, I don't know what to do, David. You know what he told me? Nothing. Within 2 hours, my grand sponsor called me. And he said, Charlie, I'll take you to North Carolina. We'll stay up there as long as we have to. You don't have to do this alone. You know what he told me? Nothing. They were there. And that is what true sponsorship is, in my opinion only. Because there's one thing that my sponsor, my grand sponsor, my great-grand sponsor, the guys that I sponsored, the guys that they sponsor, there's one common thread that we all have: the lack of power. We don't know the answers. We don't know. God's not going to give us any more than we can handle, Charlie, but you will get life done. And Bubba, I have been life done. Maybe that's why I need my God so badly. So I go to North Carolina and I walk into that ex-wife's house, and she's got that Easter basket up on the counter. And she said, you're going to need some of these. And I said, yeah, I know. But no. She said, you're going to need some, Charlie. And I said, I know I am. But no. My God does not come in pill, powder, or liquid form anymore. Not today. And I'm standing in front of that casket, and I put at that time that 8-year chip in his hand. And I said, just take a little bit of my sobriety with you, Scotty boy. Because a whole lot of me died the day you died. A whole lot of me died the day you died. What was Charlie Yao like? And what happened? And what he's like today? It's not any good, but I'll tell you. I wrote it when I was looking at my son. If I can remember the words. It says it was late and dark one dreary night. He was riding in the rain. This young and reckless outlaw that was aching with pain. And he slumped over his saddle seat and he looked towards the sky and said, God, I just wish I'd die. And he was searching for a place to lay his weary head, and he unmounted his mount and he unrolled his bed. And he was looking through the blackened sky and he was searching through his mind. And he thought of all the broken hearts that he had left behind. Yeah, young restless outlaw, you're living too fast. Think you better slow down, it's not going to last. Because you see, I've been through it all myself. But now that's all in the past. For the outlaw's reign is over. His trail's come to an end. You see, he's the kind of man that dies without a friend. He never has that starry night. He never has that home. You see, the life, the outlaw's life, is the same as my own. But times they are changing, and this outlaw's been reborn. No longer fear and hate and resentment is his crown of thorns. It's love and peace and faith in the sunshine and the rain. For this old and wore-out outlaw has finally stopped the pain. God bless Alcoholics Anonymous. God bless.